All right, guys, so this is exactly what buyers and sellers secretly want. Now, if you can literally give them what they want, then you can get what you want. And what is that? Well, this could be more clients, this could be more referrals, this could be area dominance. I'm not sure what you guys want. And that's not the point. The point here is I'm going to show you exactly what they want so that each and every single one of you guys who's watching this can get what you secretly want. Okay? It's really just that. I think I said this in the previous video that guys, business is a value exchange. All right. We all have pain points. We all have questions. We all have certain things that we want that we don't have right now, which means that there's a massive pain. So, anyone who can provide us a solution to that pain, okay, in exchange for money, right, or their time or their services or whatever it is, they must be equally compensated to the pain that you're experiencing. Okay, so for example, and then we'll jump straight into the video. Most of you guys have a massive pain. What is this massive pain? You don't know how to consistently get buyers and sellers. You don't know how to consistently become the most preferred agent. You don't know how to get consistent referrals. You don't have a system that's bringing you constant deals and mandates. So that is, of course, a big pain. Now, where do I come on board? I come on board so I can help alleviate that pain by providing a solution. And of course, once that solution is sorted, I'm compensated, and then of course you are not happy because that solution has alleviated that pain that you're going through. If you're looking at the medical industry, it's the same thing. If you're looking at the law industry, it's the same thing. Guys, once you understand this, this will make your life a lot easier because I think many of you guys are approaching this the wrong way. Come from a place of service, and I'm telling you right here, right now, this has happened to so many of my clients. That is where you start to close tons of deals. Anyway, so what do buyers and sellers secretly want? Well, at the end of the day, guys, you guys know what buyers and sellers secretly want. Okay. And if it's not obvious to you guys, I'm going to cover it for you. So let's quickly zoom out here. All right. Now, if we're taking a look at this, all right, we're going to have two types of clientele. All right. So we're going to have, let me put this here. All right. So you've got two types of clientele. So we've got, let's say, the seller. All right. Awesome. We've got the seller. Perfect. Nice and bold. So we've got the seller. No, actually, this is the buyer. We've got the buyer, and then we've got the seller. Perfect. So let me illustrate this for you guys to fully get and understand. And I think I did a video like this last year, but I like to repeat certain things so that it gets indoctrinated. It seeps deep into your subconscious that you finally get this. And maybe me explaining it this way might make sense for each and every single one of you guys. But cool, you've got a buyer, you've got a seller. So here's the buyer, here's the seller. Now, what are they both looking at? They're both looking at the outcome that they want, right? So what does the buyer secretly want? The buyer wants that property. What does the seller secretly want? The seller wants to sell their house so they can get their cash. Now, this is not the case for each and every single one of them, but there is a core reason, right? Maybe for them, selling isn't about making money. It could just be the fact that they want to go and travel, or maybe they want to be closer to their kids. But at the end of the day, what is the core outcome of them selling? They're going to get money. What is the core outcome of what a buyer wants? They want that property. Okay. So the reason why, for example, this buyer does not have this property yet, some buyers, not every buyer, right? The reason why some buyers don't have this property yet is because there could be X amount of reasons, which we're going to cover about right now. But the reason why they don't have it right now is because there's this gap. The reason why the seller doesn't have this right now is because there's this gap. So what does this gap represent? This gap could represent a basket of reasons, guys. This gap could represent bad credit for the buyer. This gap could represent misinformation. This gap could represent lack of income, for example. This gap could represent so many things. Okay, it really does vary. Same thing with the seller. This gap could represent the wrong value and the wrong pricing, right? This gap could represent working with 10 different agents. This gap could represent miseducation, right? So every single buyers and sellers gap is different. The same way you want money, or the same way you want consistent mandates. But what is the problem? There's a gap. You don't know how to get mandates, or you are getting mandates, but it's not consistent. You don't know how to build a system. You're not good with technology, right? So this is how the real world works, guys, is that all of us have desires, right? We all want these certain outcomes, but we don't have these outcomes because of what? There's a gap. And it could be a multitude of reasons. So now, where you come on board is number one, you need to first identify and understand, okay, cool, there is a gap in the market. There's a gap for buyers, there's a gap for sellers. Now, remember what I said. If I can give buyers and sellers what they secretly want, which is basically this over here, then I can get what I want, which could be money, which could be referrals, could be anything. So, how do you then get buyers and sellers what they want? Now, this is where it's very important. 9 times out of 10, guys, many of them, the reason why they don't have what they want is lack of education. Most oftentimes, it's lack of education, because if they knew and if they applied, then they would get what they want. So, for example, if a buyer had to know, all right, in order for me to get this property, I need to have a clean credit record for 3 months, which means that for 3 months, I'm not going to get another loan. For 3 months, I'm not going to recklessly spend my money. For 3 months, I need to follow this protocol. If I can do that for 3 months and I'm already earning the right type of money, then I can get to where I need to be. But how would they know that information if nobody told it to them? And that's why the gap exists. Same thing with the seller. Oh, okay, so if I want to sell my house as soon as possible, I need to make sure that's priced correctly. I need to make sure that I'm not listing with 10 million agents. I need to make sure that X and X or certain things have been done in my property to make sure that it is justifiable in a sense, in order for someone to then buy my property. Or I now know what buyers in my market are looking for, therefore I'm going to make sure my property is in alignment with that. The reason why they don't have the money, or the reason why they haven't sold their house, is because they don't have that information. And that's where the gap exists. So, who can close this gap? You. You are the pilot. You, as an agent, you are the pilot. And how do you close that gap? Is through education. Because what are you doing? When you're the pilot of this education, right? When you're the pilot of this helicopter, you can then take this buyer and get them to where they need to be. You can take the seller and get them to where they need to be. But the problem with many of you in this industry is that you're not educating, you're not adding any value to your market. You're just pilots who are not taking them to where they need to be. You're pilots and you've got helicopters, but you're refusing to use your helicopters. Think about it this way, guys. Imagine if you wanted to go to Durban and you had pilots who had the planes, but then they're like, well, we don't know how to get you to Durban. What do you mean you don't know how to get me to Durban? You've got the plane. Let's get in the plane. Let's get in the plane and then take us to where we need to be. And the pilot's like, oh, yeah, we do need to do that in order for us to get you to Durban. Can you imagine how that would look? That would sound so stupid. And I know right now it might be like, oh, is that it? Yes, it's that. That's it, guys. Many of you guys, the reason why you haven't been getting the right buyers or the right sellers, or consistently getting the right buyers or consistently the right sellers, is because you have the tools, you've got the knowledge, you've got the education. But the problem is you are not feeding your sellers and buyers this education. It's sort of like you guys are selling yourself as a pilot to the buyer. You're selling yourself as a pilot to the seller, but they don't care about you. Can you imagine if a pilot was like to you, oh, I'm a pilot. I've flown helicopters and planes for 10, 20, 30 years. You know, I've done this, I've done that. But now you're like, okay, cool story, bro. Can you get me to Durban right now? Because I need to be there. But now this pilot is telling you about how amazing they are. Wouldn't you just look at that pilot like they're an idiot? Like, dude, I get it. I get it. You've got 10 years experience. I get it. You've got all this experience, but I need to be in Durban. And then eventually you're just like, you know what? Actually, this pilot is not hearing me. This pilot is not hearing me. I'm going to go find another pilot. And then you find another pilot who's like, where would you like to go? Oh, I'd like to get to Durban. Okay, awesome. Let's go. Boom. And you get to Durban. And then you, as the pilot who just kept on bragging about yourself and how amazing and how good you are and all the experience that you have, you then look at that pilot who took that client to Durban and you wonder to yourself, how did that pilot do that? What did that pilot do? What's that pilot's secret? Oh, this is unfair. Oh, you start to blame everyone else. No, 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 no. You were bragging about yourself. But the market doesn't care about you. The market doesn't care about how many years experience you have. The market doesn't care about, how great you are. Okay? If you cannot take them to where they need to be, okay, using your education and your skill sets and how you can assist them, they're going to go find someone else. It's that simple. Your job and your role as an agent, and yes, I understand service is important, don't get me wrong. But before you can get the service, they need to trust you. They need to be confident that you are going to get them to where they need to be because they have this massive gap. So until they're confident that you as the pilot can close this gap for them or can get to where they need to be, right? Because here's the thing, they wouldn't need you if they knew how to get to the top. Do you think this person would need this pilot if he knew how to operate this helicopter to get to where he needed to be? No, he wouldn't. So then why aren't you guys educating your market? Why aren't you guys creating content? Why aren't you guys consistent with your content? Why aren't you guys creating content that's going to solve this gap? If buyers in your market are struggling to afford homes, maybe because they have bad credit, why are you not creating content on TikTok, on Meta, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, teaching them how to improve their credit so that you can find more people who are like, I watched this video. Your video is so amazing. You taught me so many things. I've improved my credit. I'm ready to work with you. Boom. Done. Why are you not creating content that's educating sellers on why you shouldn't be working with 10 million agents? How this is how you should be pricing your home. Why buyers are not going to buy properties like this in this market until they've actually done 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Why are you not closing the gap with your education? Only you guys know. But I'm here to create more awareness within you guys that it's not about who's the best and who's got X amount of experience. It's about who can close the gap and how to close that gap. Education. Who's got the education? You do. And until you stop being selfish and caring about what people think of you and focus more on your clientele, you will not close this gap, or you will always be wondering why certain agents are doing better than you. And it's purely because they found a way to close the gap. And that's exactly what's going to happen this year. So guys, what buyers and sellers secretly want, they just want you to close the gap. They just want you to close the gap. They want you to show them how to close the gap and watch. Watch how they start to come to you. Watch how you start to get business, and then you get what you want. What am I doing right now? I'm closing the gap for some of you guys who've realized, oh, actually, I realized that I need to start creating more educational content. I realized I need to start posting more, not bragging about yourself, but how can I help other people? What am I doing? I'm closing the gap. I am the pilot. And what am I doing? When you're watching this video, you're watching me educating you, showing you how to close the gap so that you can be like, Mandile, you've taught me so much. How can I work with you? And then I help you close the gap. And then I get what I want, you get what you want, and everyone is happy. Hope this makes sense, guys. I'll see you in the next video.